Alright man, with eTrailer, if you're looking for a pretty clean look for the back of your 2022 Toyota Tacoma, and you want protection not just from the elements, but from anyone passing by so they don't take any of your tools, then the Pace Edwards SwitchBlade canister style tonneau cover is going to be a great option. So let's check it out and take a look at that install. One of the first things I really noticed looking at this tonneau cover is going to be just the overall design. If we're just looking at the cover itself, we have more of that soft roll-up design, which honestly gives us a really clean finish, but it's still going to give us the benefits of that hard style tonneau cover. And the second thing too is how high it sits up off our bed. This is a really sleek design. It looks really clean too. And since this is a canister style tonneau cover, it's really easy to use and it's going to be very secure. So from right here, I actually can open it up. The only way to open it up is if I open up my tailgate. So once I open this, we'll see that underneath, I'm going to have these two latches. Once I squeeze these together, it's going to roll up into itself. And this is giving us a really clean look to the back of our truck. Everything is kept in this canister, so not only is it saving you a lot of space, but it's also giving us a really clean look on the back of our truck. Now, one of the downsides to a roll-up style tonneau cover or a canister style is that it does take up some of the space underneath our bed. If you're looking for something that solves that, then I'd recommend checking out some of the folding style tonneau covers. Because the way those work, they're going to have sections that fold into themselves. The first one is just going to take up a spot on the back of your bed, but the plus size is not going to take up any space underneath. Now, if you want maximum space out of your bed, there's going to be other tonneau covers that actually fold up all the way against the back of your cab, leaving full bed access. But one of the benefits to a canister style is it's not going to take up a lot of space above our bed. Now, like with those two fold-up styles, a lot of times you're going to be able to see it out of your back window, but as you can see right here, we really can't notice our canister. And speaking about how it is fitting back here, let's get a few measurements. So like I was saying, this doesn't stick up very much. This is going to stick up at the most a little bit over 1.5 inches. That's really clean and a pretty low profile. I've seen a lot of other tonneau covers that stick up, and just the tonneau cover itself sticks up by 1 inch. So that's pretty good. Now, let's see how far this is going to stick out. So going from the back of our bed to where this tonneau cover ends, that's going to be about 14 inches. And really, that's really not too much space. Now, if you're really trying to max this out, that might be an issue. But you still have that space underneath the tonneau cover as well. So going from the bottom of the bed to the bottom of the tonneau cover, we're going to have a little bit under 10 inches of space there. So if you really need to put some smaller items in the very back, you're going to be able to do that. Now, you probably noticed in that last shot underneath the canister, typically there's some drain tubes installed. We just didn't install ours today, and we'll talk a little bit more about that during the install, but you will have some drain tubes just in case water does build up in here. That'll allow it to exit your vehicle. This is also going to have a lot of weather strips on it. We're going to have one on the tailgate side. We're going to have one behind our canister. And then underneath the rails themselves, there's going to be some strips and foam padding. And that's also going to prevent any water from entering in here. Now, no tonneau cover is completely waterproof. Now, a lot of them are very water resistant, and I think this is going to do a good job at keeping most water out. And the way this is going to secure to your Tacoma is via these tracks. We're going to have these brackets and clamps that go right into there and secure it down. And honestly, this is a pretty easy install. From what I've dealt with most tonneau covers. It doesn't take too long. Now, probably the hardest part is just me dealing with these brackets, but once you work with it a little bit, it's not too bad. But I really do like the way this operates. As you can see, it moves really smooth, and it does come with a lubricant, but we didn't use it. and I didn't have any issues. And even shutting the tailgate feels really nice as well. So we do have a lot of different options on our website, from fold up, canister, roll up, and there's so many you can choose from. Now, another one I would recommend just checking out would be the Pace Edwards Full Metal Jack Rabbit. And that's going to be because instead of this more vinyl finish we have on top, it's going to have a metal finish. But it really is just going to come down to what your personal preference is. And like I said earlier, we have plenty of options on our website, so what I recommend doing is just checking out some of our videos, photos, descriptions, and so you can help find what's going to be the right option for you. But if you think this is going to be the best one for you, because honestly, I think it's a great option, then just stick around. We'll show you how we installed it. To start off our installation, I recommend laying everything out just roughly where you're going to want it to be. So up front, we're going to have our canister itself. On one side, we're going to have our rails. We're going to have some of the hardware here in the center. And we're going to talk a little bit about what you're going to need and expect to install that. But first, let's put on our canister. And the best way I recommend just putting the canister up there is going to be wrapping that strap that comes with it around the canister, grabbing it, making sure you have a hand on both ends, and you're going to lift it up. Now, you might run into the issue that it's uneven. Just with your extra hand, try to level it out and carry it up near the bulkhead. Now, we're just going to roughly place it where it needs to be. So right now, just make sure it's even. I'm going to push it as close to our bulkhead as possible. With that done, then I'm going to make sure I pull this strap out, because I don't want that to get stuck underneath there. And with that done, we can start prepping our rails. At this point, we want to connect our rails to our tonneau cover. So we're going to need a few things to do that. I'm going to grab a socket and wrench, and we're going to use an 11mm one. And we're going to grab this bolt with this lock washer and a flat washer. That's going to come in a pink bag that is separate from the rest of your hardware. And then we're going to have our rails. We want to make sure we grab the right rail for the correct side. So notice how the very edge of this is curved. We want to make sure that curved edge is pointed towards the outside and is on your tailgate side. Once we've established this, we're going to start putting it on. And this isn't too bad, honestly. I like to just start off by putting it on your bed rails, and we're going to slide it forward. What we want to do is slide this hand assembly here at the front, just lifting that up some, and then I'm going to push on my tonneau cover rail and slide it into one another. There we go, just like that. I'm going to reach this point, and then we can start installing this bolt. This is going to be the location of where that bolt is going to go through. So what there's going to be is there's going to be this hole, and then underneath here, if I just slide this rail forward a bit, you can see we have this threaded hole. That's where this bolt's going to go into. But we need to make sure it goes through that other opening as well. So I'm going to line it all up, push this through. If I'm having issues, just kind of try to move this some and see if that helps out. You'll eventually get to a point where it's going to want to grab. And once it starts grabbing, you can start threading it on. Once it's hand tight, you can grab your 11mm socket and wrench and tighten it down the rest of the way. Now when you're doing this, you want to make sure you don't tighten it down too much. We want a good amount of resistance, but nothing that's going to damage any of this plastic underneath. So at this point, we can start clamping down our rails. So what we're going to want to do is lay everything out. So right here, we're going to have our outer clamp. And next to that, we're going to have the inner clamp. Over here on the side, we are going to have, at this point, bracket A, and then we're going to have bracket B. We're going to have a few flat washers, some nuts, and some lock washers, and a couple bolts, along with this locking set screw. Once we have all that laid out, we can start really organizing how everything's going to work together. So to kind of show you what I mean, we're going to have our inner clamp, and that's going to go into our track rails. And outside of that, this is going to sit on top of those bolts. We also want to make sure that this top flange with the opening is facing up. So let's come over to our tracks. We're going to remove this end cap, pushing in on it, and it slides right off. And there's two ways you can put this on. You can start just by putting on that inner clamp, getting on just like that, or you could assemble them together and slide it on this way. This way can be a little bit tricky, but you also don't have to worry about installing it on later. And I'm just going to push that down a little bit. We can get our measurements later on, but let's start installing our brackets now. We want to start with our A bracket. So what we're going to do is flip this around to this side with the teeth. We're going to grab that set screw and just start threading that into place. You'll probably face some resistance early on with it. At that point, you just grab a 3mm Allen key, push it in there the rest of the way. We don't want to push it through too much. We want it to be just underneath the top part of that. Once we've done that, we can put it on our tonneau cover rails. Now what we're looking to do is just to slide this onto our rails, and honestly the best approach is just trying it out, see if it fits. If it doesn't fit, we can flip this around. You notice that we have two different lengths on these tabs. We're going to have two different lengths on the tabs of the rail. And now it just slides right into place. And I'm just going to line this up with our first bracket or clamps. And then I can put clamp B on now. And bracket B is going to look very similar. I'll just line up with those tabs, push it on, and now we're going to line this one up with your clamp that's on your tailgate side. And with this roughly in place, we can start tightening everything down. We're going to come over to our outer and inner clamps. We're going to start by putting on our flat washer, then our lock washer. Then we're going to come over, grab a nut, and just try to get that hand tight at first. We'll do that process on the other side too. Same order. Getting that flat, that lock, and then that nut. Once we have this secure, because we still want this pretty loose, then we can start putting on this bolt, lock washer and flat washer that connects our outer clamp and this bracket up top. Now if you're having issues trying to line everything up, all you have to do is really just either push or pull on your rail. Try to adjust where your outer clamp sits and start threading it on. Now I would recommend actually getting underneath here, taking a closer look at this so you know everything is lined up. Now before we tighten these all the way down, we want to get a few measurements. What we're going to do is go from this clamp that's on the back. We want to make sure that's 6 inches from our canister. If it's not, we're just going to adjust. That's why we didn't tighten everything down to begin with. With that adjusted, then we'll go to the tailgate side. We're going to measure from the end of this track. We want this to sit at 4 inches. We're pretty close. I'll just adjust that just a tad bit more. And then we can tighten everything the rest of the way down with that 11mm socket and wrench. And the trick here is going to be doing everything a little bit at a time. So I'll do this a few turns, come over to the one next to it, do that one a few turns too, even the one underneath, because we want to make sure everything is pretty gradual. We don't get any weird fitment issues, because if you tighten maybe these bottom ones too much, it's not going to be level on top. The point that we do want to tighten down all the way is going to be from this outer bracket that goes up and connects into your bracket A and B. We're going to do that on both sides. Now I've already done that for the rest of the clamps. Once that is tight, we can check our fitment. So what we're looking for is to see how far away our tonneau cover rails are from our tailgate. I'm going to come over here, check the spacing. You're going to have a specified number in your instructions that tells you the distance from these rails to your tailgate. If it looks good, you're set. If it doesn't, if it's too close or too far away, you can either just grab these rails, push them a bit, or pull them towards you, depending on what situation you're in. Now what we do want to do is come over to bracket A, where we had that set screw in, and from this point, we're going to tighten that down with that Allen key. The next point we want to tighten down fully is going to be the bolts that connect your inner and outer clamps. And when we do this, we want to apply downward pressure from the outside. Because what this is doing is going to allow everything to be even, so it's not popping up at an angle. And this is going to allow you a more smooth transition for your tonneau cover to come out. This is especially important on your tailgate side. Now, once you're done with that, the rest of this is something that we're not going to do because we're not doing this as a permanent install, but we'll still talk about the process. The first piece we're going to grab is just this section of hook and loop. It's going to have this plastic piece that goes on the back. That's just protecting any of the adhesive underneath it. So you're going to have an option to put this wherever you want on the inside of your bed. And what this is going to allow you to do is connect this to this strap, just like that. And this is going to just help you keep this out from the center of your bed so you have more room. Now the instructions also recommend wrapping this strap behind any of your clamps. I've done that before. I think it's an okay solution, but I don't think it's required. Now the second part is going to be grabbing this lubricant swipe. Now I'm not going to take this out, but the way this is going to work is you're going to have your sweep seal and your wear strip, and you're going to rub it across each one of those. It's going to look just like this. We're going to rub it underneath this section, and then we're going to rub it on top of this section, going all the way down each side of your tonneau cover rails. The last part we won't be able to install is going to be these drain tubes. Now we're going to have this drain fitting at the very top. This is going to be the part that goes right into this hole underneath your canister right here. You're going to push that into place. Make sure it clicks on. Once it's clicked on and mounted, then you're going to take the other end and you're going to find a place to put it through. Now if you already have some holes in here, you should be able to feed this through. If you don't, you're going to have to drill a hole. Now when you are drilling a hole, I recommend just checking that there's nothing behind here that you're going to run into. So make sure you're not going into any wires or any other part of your vehicle. And the last major part of the installation is going to be installing your cover. So when you're doing this, for a few things, you're going to have 4 bolts that are going to secure this down. Next, you also want to make sure this is in the right orientation. You're going to have 2 sides. You're going to have a side that has this rubber edge. That's going to be on the side that's closest to your cab. The other side is going to have this brush. This brush is going to go on the tonneau cover side. Now once you've done that, I'm just going to lift this up and just roughly place it down. Doesn't have to be perfect to begin with. We can make our adjustments later on. To install these bolts, we're going to grab a Phillips screwdriver, line everything up. It helps if you just shine a light through that hole. Once you've done that, I'd recommend just lightly screwing this in, not all the way, just partially, just so if we need to make any adjustments later on, we can. And the last step is really just to check our work to see if we did a good job or not. So we're just gonna pull on it, making sure everything feels pretty smooth. That does feel smooth. And our tailgate shuts. And if it looks good, then you can take it out for a ride. But that was just a look at the installation and some of the features of the Pace Edwards tonneau cover on our 2022 Toyota Tacoma. I'm Matt, thanks for watching.